The opening question. Have you ever looked around at social gatherings and wondered if there's something wrong with you? While everyone else seems to have dozens of friends, texting constantly, making weekend plans with different groups, you find yourself with just one or two people you truly connect with. Maybe you've felt inadequate. Maybe you've questioned your social skills. Maybe you've even felt lonely in a room full of people. But here's what psychology has discovered: having only one or two real friends isn't a flaw. It's actually a sign of something remarkable about who you are as a person. Today, we're diving deep into what science tells us about people who prefer quality over quantity in friendships. And by the end of this video, you might see yourself in a completely different light. Let's start with understanding what makes you different. The quality over quantity mind. Most people collect friendships the way others collect stamps. They meet someone at work, exchange numbers, grab coffee once, and suddenly that person is labeled a friend. But if you have only one or two real friends, you operate differently. Psychology calls this selective social investment. Your brain doesn't just hand out the title of friend to anyone who's nice to you. Instead, you have an unconscious filtering system that's constantly asking, is this person worth my limited emotional energy? And here's the thing, this isn't being judgmental or cold. It's actually a sign of high emotional intelligence. Research from the University of Oxford found that our brains can only maintain about 5 close relationships at any given time. Beyond that, the quality of each connection starts to dilute. Your brain already knows this. While others are spreading themselves thin across 20 surface-level friendships, you're investing deeply in 1 or 2 meaningful connections. Think of it like this: would you rather have 100 acquaintances who know your name, or 2 friends who know your story? But there's more to it than just preference. The type of person who maintains fewer friendships often shares specific psychological traits. The introvert advantage. If you have only 1 or 2 close friends, there's a strong chance you lean toward introversion. And before you think that's a negative, let's clear something up: introversion is not the same as being shy or socially anxious. Introverts aren't afraid of people. They're selective about which people deserve their energy. Dr. Laurie Helgoe, author of Introvert Power, explains that introverts process social interactions differently. Where extroverts gain energy from being around others, introverts expend energy. Every conversation, every social event, every group gathering costs something. So when you choose to have only 1 or 2 close friends, you're not being antisocial. You're being strategic. You're recognizing that your energy is precious, and you'd rather spend it on deep, meaningful conversations with people who truly matter than on small talk with dozens of casual acquaintances. Studies show that introverts form bonds that are typically stronger and longer-lasting than those of extroverts. Why? Because every friendship is intentional. You don't stumble into connections by accident. You cultivate them carefully, like a gardener tending to rare plants. There's a quiet strength in that. A depth that others often miss. And this leads us to another powerful trait: your authenticity threshold. The authenticity filter. Here's something fascinating: people with fewer close friends have a lower tolerance for superficiality. Psychology calls this a high authenticity threshold. You've probably experienced this yourself. You're at a party, someone asks how you are, and they clearly don't want a real answer. They want fine or good so the conversation can move on. For many people, this is normal. For you, it's exhausting. When you have only 1 or 2 real friends, it's because you refuse to settle for surface-level connections. You don't want to talk about the weather or reality TV. You want to talk about ideas, emotions, dreams, fears, the things that make us human. Research from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships found that people who value authenticity over social quantity report higher levels of life satisfaction. Why? Because fake friendships drain us. They require us to wear masks, to edit ourselves, to perform a version of who we think we should be. Your one or two real friends. They see you without the mask. They know your flaws and love you anyway. They understand your silence isn't rejection, it's comfort. They don't need you to be on all the time. That kind of friendship is rare. And the fact that you refuse to settle for anything less says something profound about your character. But let's address the elephant in the room. Is having fewer friends ever a problem? The loneliness paradox. Let's be honest. Sometimes, having only one or two friends can feel lonely. Especially when you see others surrounded by groups, their social calendars always full. You might wonder if you're missing out. But here's what psychology reveals: loneliness isn't about how many friends you have. It's about the quality of connection you feel. A landmark study from the University of Pennsylvania found that people with large social networks often report feeling lonelier than those with smaller circles of close friends. Why? Because they're surrounded by people but still feel unseen. They have 100 people to hang out with, but nobody to truly confide in. On the other hand, people with one or two deep friendships report feeling understood, supported, and valued. They might spend more time alone, but they don't feel lonely because their emotional needs are met. There's a crucial difference between being alone and being lonely. Being alone is a state. Being lonely is a feeling. And you can absolutely feel lonely in a crowd if none of those connections are real. So if you have one or two real friends, ask yourself this: do you feel seen? Do you feel heard? Do you feel valued? If the answer is yes, then you're not lonely. You're simply selective. And this selectiveness might actually protect you in surprising ways. The drama-free life. Here's an uncomfortable truth about large social circles: they come with drama. Misunderstandings, gossip, competing loyalties, hurt feelings over who got invited where. The more people in your social orbit, the higher the chance of conflict. When you maintain only one or two close friendships, you dramatically reduce this social friction. Psychology research shows that smaller social networks lead to less interpersonal stress and anxiety. Think about the last time you had a conflict with a friend. Now imagine having that times 10, times 20. That's the reality for people with massive friend groups. They're constantly managing relationships, mediating disputes, trying to keep everyone happy. You've opted out of that exhausting game. And the mental health benefits are significant. Studies from the American Psychological Association found that people with smaller, more intimate social circles have lower cortisol levels, the stress hormone. They sleep better. They report fewer anxiety symptoms. Their friendships energize them rather than drain them. Your one or two real friends bring peace to your life, not chaos. They don't create problems, they help solve them. They don't add stress, they provide relief. There's something beautifully simple about that. But what does this all mean for your self-perception? Reframing your story. For too long, society has told us that popularity equals success. That being well-liked by many is the goal. That having a small social circle means something is wrong with us. But psychology tells us a different story. Having one or two real friends doesn't mean you're socially awkward, incapable of making friends, unlikable, missing out. Instead, it means you're emotionally intelligent enough to recognize quality, self-aware enough to know your limits, confident enough to reject superficiality, mature enough to value depth over breadth. The psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you." Your one or two real friends. They're the people who understand those important things. You haven't failed at friendship. You've succeeded at finding the real thing. And in a world where authentic connection is increasingly rare, that makes you not just normal, but actually ahead of the curve. You've figured out what many people spend their entire lives searching for: genuine human connection. So where do you go from here? Moving forward with confidence. If you've made it this far, you probably see yourself in this description. And maybe, for the first time, you don't feel like something is wrong with you. You feel understood. Here's what you need to remember: your friendship style isn't a deficit. It's a strength. In a world obsessed with collecting connections, you've chosen to cultivate them. In a culture that values quantity, you've chosen quality. In a society that rewards popularity, you've chosen authenticity. That takes courage. So the next time you're at a gathering and everyone else seems to know everyone, remember this video. Remember that your one or two real friends are waiting for you, not because they have to, but because they genuinely want to. Remember that depth always beats breadth. Remember that you're not antisocial, you're selectively social. And most importantly, remember that psychology backs you up on this. You're not weird. You're not broken. You're not missing out. You're exactly who you're supposed to be. If this resonated with you, let me know in the comments below. Do you have one or two real friends, or are you part of a larger circle? There's no right answer, just your answer. And if you found value in this video, consider subscribing. We'll be exploring more psychological insights that help you understand yourself better. Thanks for watching. And remember, quality always wins.